A sharp political backlash is escalating after NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte signaled that foreign troops could be deployed in Ukraine following a peace deal with Russia. Pro-Russia, Ukrainian politician Viktor Medvedchuk has slammed the remarks, warning they could derail any peace agreement and push negotiations into a deadlock.
Rutte's statement that NATO troops will be in Ukraine after the peace agreement means a verdict on these agreements because then they cannot be reached, because NATO troops in Ukraine are unacceptable based on the security interests of the Russian Federation, and Russia will never allow this.
Medvedchuk called Rutte's comments a verdict on peace efforts, accusing the West of promoting a no-peace, no-war scenario that could lead to prolonged instability and chaos instead of a lasting settlement. Rutte made the remarks during his address to Ukraine's parliament in Kiev on February 3rd, outlining plans for a so-called coalition of the willing. Under the framework, willing countries would deploy troops, air power, and naval assets after a peace deal, while others would support Ukraine without formal NATO Article 5 commitments.
The United States, Europe and Canada have affirmed their readiness to provide the assurance that Ukraine needs to be able to forge a peace with Russia. The members of the Coalition of the Willing made encouraging progress on these guarantees when they met last month in Paris. I was at that meeting, and so was President Zelensky. Some European allies have announced that they will deploy troops to Ukraine after a deal is reached. Troops on the ground, jets in the air, ships on the Black Sea.
Russia has now issued its strongest warning yet. Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova accused NATO of planning an overt military intervention and said any Western troops in Ukraine would be treated as legitimate military targets.
On February 3rd, NATO Secretary-General Rutte showed up in Kiev. He made another aggressive statement, claiming that after a peace agreement is reached in Ukraine, troops, weapons, air power, and naval forces from a so-called coalition of the willing will immediately appear on the territory of this once prosperous country or region. This is categorically unacceptable for us. Russia has repeatedly stated that the deployment of Western troops on Ukrainian territory, under any flag, would pose a threat to our security. We will consider these troops a legitimate military target.
The comments come as peace negotiations involving Russia, Ukraine, and the United States continue, with the next round of talks scheduled in Abu Dhabi. The dispute underscores a core contradiction in the peace process. Ukraine is seeking Western security guarantees, while Russia is demanding a complete ban on foreign troops. As diplomacy intensifies, the warnings from Moscow-linked figures signal deep red lines and raise new doubts over whether a post-war Western military presence could make any negotiated peace deal impossible.